Hey, you may be listening or watching this on The Line, but this is its own thing called The Line Has a Podcast.
We thought you wanted to know that they exist and give some links to follow its official YouTube channel and links for other podcast locations.
We're only sharing the Friday show on this channel for a while, but we do more episodes this channel will never see.
Also, you can join the Reddit if there are stories or topics that you want the host to see and maybe react to. You're supposed to say the next line.
Oh, check
Sweet
the
links.
description for those sweet links.
This episode is brought to you by our patron supporters, and today's patron of the day, who is Clever Name 2. Patrons get the show always ad-free and access to the extended episode with that bonus content. On today's bonus episode, Promise will finally tell the Kata story, and Jimmy and Promise are going to play a little bit of the Bad People card game. It's fun. Plus, we'll answer questions left under the last episode on Patreon. So if you don't want to miss all that, go to patreon.com/calltheline. That's patreon.com. I try to get through it before letting it go. /call the line. Comment of the episode, last episode. You guys have no right to even dream about giving Elon advice or even suggestions. Welcome everyone to The Line Has a Podcast. I'm Jimmy Snow.
And I'm Promise Backlund.
And it is Friday, January 31st. We're going to be talking about the priest who doesn't want to be called a Nazi just because he did a Nazi thing, RFK's confirmation hearings, and the consequences of the anti-vax narratives that are happening right now, today, and more stuff. But before we get started, we will address last week's question of the day and give you today's question of the day. Do you remember the question of the day not week, Tuesday?
I wasn't here.
Yeah, but you got it because we did the wrong.
Oh, yeah,
one.
I did do it. And now I'm completely blanked on it.
When polled,
remember having a strong opinion, so let's hear it.
When polled, most people will say that the main reason they voted for Trump was the economy. The economy, by the way, we measure it, was actually going in a better direction than Trump's best days. So what were people really communicating? And there were a couple of comments that I think grasp a lot of it. One person just wrote price of eggs, LMAO. And Janice wrote, I think many people equate the economy with the cost of groceries and utilities, which is probably true. They were probably considering that those things had gone up, but not considering the fact that the inflation that they are referring to right now was caused by three things, two of which Joe Biden has zero effect over. And the third one, which he did have effect over, actually improved the situations. So what are those three things? Well, the Trump tax cuts was one of them. When you lower taxes in a way that mostly affects the rich, you essentially facilitate a transfer of money, additional incomes from poor people that those tax dollars were going to back to the rich people. And so you are taking more money out of the economy that we who are not rich are sharing, and you are causing inflation. And this is, by the way, a known thing. Tax cuts explode debts, but they happen on a bit of a delay. And so you get an initial great, like the stock market appears to do better, even though you're not doing better. And if you time it cleverly, you don't actually have to worry about the consequences because it's going to happen when the next dude is in office. But also the tariffs. Tariffs are paid by Americans, not by the other people. And so you lower the amount of actual things you are importing, meaning you are lowering the supply of some good. So inflation happens. That's how inflation happens. You are paying more because there is less and they have to cover more costs. Now, on top of that, you had COVID. And if you track across the world, COVID's effects on the economies, America's recovery was better than any other developed country by kind of a lot, actually because of Biden-era policies. Now, all of that is true, and yet Donald Trump still won. Why? Because the DNC fucking sucks at telling you that. And making you feel like, if anything, they wanted to take like the lapse of like, yeah, we saved the economy. It's actually great. And we're telling you it's great. And we are not going to tell you that we hear that you're hurting and we feel for you. And it just fucking, Trump did. Trump made people feel heard and like they care about them, and that's why Trump won. But what's your thoughts?
I don't feel like they ran a real campaign. They ran a counter campaign. They were just betting on yeah, well, we're not Trump. And that wasn't enough. You have to provide education for what you have to offer. And Trump may have been lying out of his ass the entire time, but he made a shit ton of promises. He listed specifics. He's going to lower the price of eggs. He's going to deport 1 million people. Right. I actually went to the grocery store today and I have a picture. There was the only eggs that were on the shelf were like $12 a dozen ones. So not going so well.
Yeah. That's one of the few promises he isn't.
Experience. Yeah.
Some of the promises he is actually fulfilling. They're just all the horrible ones and not the ones that average people needed.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think that was amongst so many others, that's one of the downfalls of the campaign that the DNC ran, is that they didn't offer much other than not being Trump.
Yeah.
Which I understand more limited time, but there was all the time in the world, because that should have carried over from any candidate that was running. It's these basic things that should have stood true regardless of who was running against Donald Trump.
By the way, you who think that like not being Trump was the thing, Donald Trump very well could have won again in 2020 were it not for COVID. It was another situation of people going, I see where I am now and I know I want things to be different. And so they voted for change, for something different than Trump. And so when Biden comes back around, or in this case, Harris, and they're like, hey, we're not going to change us. We're just going to keep not being Trump. They're like, well, Trump, when there wasn't COVID, we don't necessarily recognize how fucked we were, again, because of, one, the delayed results of those things he was doing, but two, the ability to blame a lot of the horrible shit that was happening on that. Actually, this has to do with COVID going on, or those things getting delayed by COVID even, because we did then have to do these giant stimuluses. And so it felt like things were happening differently than they actually were happening.
Right.
So unfortunately, somebody I love, Gail from RFR, had posted, she's like, if I hear one more podcast about how bad the DNC messaging was, I'm going to scream. And I was like, don't listen to our podcast, because it keeps coming up in ours for sure. Now, obviously, I'm not a Democrat, so they're not going to listen to me. But I think the next Democrat that's going to win is going to be the one who runs on Medicare for all. I think like that if you actually wanted to make people feel like you hear them and are going to take care of them, you have to actually address the things that they need. That
they care about. I fully agree. And that's something, they will find a way to get people to be against it. But in general, everyone should be for that. That should be something that everyone gets excited about. It also doesn't require villainizing anybody. It doesn't require hating anybody else. It's a great issue to run on.
I mean, at this point, even Republicans, if you're like, yeah, listen, insurance companies will go out of business. They'll be like, yeah, I just fought an insurance company to get something covered that I was told would save my life. And they tried to deny me 6 times. And the first 3 agents were fucking goddamn robots. So I don't think it's the hardest fucking thing to actually overcome their opposition, though obviously they're going to try and you're going to lose access to your doctor. And it's going to be like in England where there's wait times. And it's kind of like at this point, wait times, bro, you're complaining about wait times in England for non-emergency things. Let's be clear. You still see a doctor immediately if you need to see a doctor immediately. But non-emergency things can't have wait times versus in America where it's, well, my wait time is, will I ever be able to afford it? And then I might go if I'm not worried then that the cost will keep exploding from there. You're talking about people who are getting no medical care, that they might have to wait for non-emergency stuff. Good luck with that.
Yep.
But we'll fuck up the messaging because that's what we do. People won't tell them that shit. Like, this is why all of what you just said is so dumb. But our question of the day for next week. Is it wrong for people to take a moment to say, I told you so, when they are presenting how bad the Trump administration is already proving to be? This could be to people who voted for Trump. This could be people who voted in protest. This could be people who abstained voting, which I think is part of the protest vote. But, some of them were just too lazy. Is it okay to take a moment and go like, I told you so. I told you so. And I will tell you, I am guilty of this. I do some I told you so's. I get reamed for it, but I will at least give you and let you kind of all go off in the comments, not try and move it too much. But I will tell you that to me, and I told you so isn't as much a like, haha, and this gives me dopamine because you're wrong and I was right. Honestly, to me, as a person who is a communicator in the space, I think I'm trying to communicate with my I told you so's. Please fucking listen to me next time. Please do not let this stuff happening when the information is there and you can see that it's bad.
I hear you. I think I just don't feel, I feel like the people who would hear me if I were to say I told you so are the ones that are already actively changing their minds anyways. Yeah. And so it's just kind of like, why say it? And the ones who aren't going to hear the like, hey, listen to me next time through an I told you so aren't going to hear it anyways. And it's just going to make them double down on wherever they're at and maybe shut off to listening to any more of what I have to say. So
sure. You know, there's audiences though, too, where it's like, if I'm saying this in a way that ends up in a back and forth between me and somebody else with an audience, their audience is going to get to judge like, oh, I'm looking though. And it looks like he was also, I still have yet to see a person in any of the spaces, leftist commentators, traditional media, anybody who predicted the election as close to good as I did. I literally missed 2 states.
I just don't have enough confidence for the I told you so, because I am still scarred for life about being so deeply wrong about believing that a God existed for 25 years that I'm like, anytime I'm right, which I when I have a solid opinion, it tends to check out with reality now because I try to do my due diligence, but I still am like, oh, wow, I was right again. That's crazy. Like, I can't believe it.
But you did that show with me where we were listening to the notes of the people saying, hell no, Trump's going to win. Harris is about to win.
Oh, I know. And you and I knew.
I reluctantly want to get some hope here. They're making me feel like maybe we have a shot because I don't think we like hearing
but you
all
and
that.
I have been saying we've been saying, honestly, for the last 4 years that he's going to win this round again. I was looking at my tweets from forever ago and I was saying, hey guys, you're already misunderestimating what they're working on as we speak. Like,
I'm still waiting for an atheist, a specific atheist podcaster to message me and be like, hey man, sorry. Cause one of our colleagues, when I posted a year prior of you can ignore the regular general polling, fine, but you cannot ignore demographic shifted polling. If the polling is saying that people's sentiment toward Trump is changing amongst those of different economic statuses than before, people of different races than before and genders of before, that shit always does reflect the election. That polling is never off. You can always look afterwards and, obviously hindsight's great, but each election you can actually see where that victory was made based on demographic support, and was basically called an idiot by one of our colleagues who, we're friendly enough otherwise. I'm just waiting for him to be like, sorry, I said yours was a nonsense take and all that dumb stuff. I said,
I wish I knew who you were talking about.
Oh, I'll tell you after, but
okay, great.
Maybe I'll just text it to you.
Text it to me now.
All I know is that not only did we lose, we lost in a predictable way, and we lost because of what I said, demographic shifting. Now, did Harris actually make that worse? Did she sort of solidify it because so many people in those demographics also hate women and hate black people, and most of all hate black women? Well, that thing wouldn't be Harris's fault, but was Harris a smart candidate to roll against someone like Trump? No, but also we didn't choose Harris. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem would have been the DNC not pushing out Biden early enough to have an actual primary and not having an issues-based campaign. Anyway, I did send you the...
I just saw.
The one. Yeah.
I didn't even know that podcast was happening. So that shows how much I know about anything.
Yeah. It's not like it's not, but somebody who we've had on the line from time to time. I just would love an acknowledgement of like,
this is the answer to Jimmy's, is it okay to say I told you so? Jimmy's like, not only is it okay, I would like to call up this person.
Well, I mean, there's the I told you so's that become apropos of nothing, where you're just like, hey, you who's like bothered about this, I told you so. And it's like you have no previous interaction. The person who basically told you you're a dumbass, nobody should listen to, your takes are nonsense. And by the way, when I then shared a video of like, you're getting my point wrong completely, here's the extended video, said in response like, oh, you want me, I don't like your nonsense thread, so now you want me to waste time watching a nonsense video. that person gets an I told you so, because their objection in advance was more asshole-ish than the I told you so.
That's fair enough. That makes more sense to me than like the people that are crying about the consequences of what's happened and they're just now realizing what they potentially voted for because they weren't educated enough on the topic. So I
should message him and be like, hey man, so we had this. You want to hash it out on my podcast? Because with Jimmy Snow as a podcast, I want to have more uncomfortable conversations.
That
and
would
show
be super fun.
That even those of us with all of us super narcissist podcasters, that even we can make peace after he kisses the ring. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't ask for that. But you know, a little acknowledgement of like, you didn't see what I saw. And I feel like though in this space, I don't know him well enough to say he'd do that, but I know a lot of personalities would be like, no, you happen to get the election right, but the reasons are, even though they sound similar, that was more of a broken clock thing. Even though it's like,
that would be fun to hear what the answer is.
I'm fucking calling balls and strikes time after fucking time. I'm so tired of you bitches not listening to me. Anyway, send me a fruit basket, asshole. Okay.
Shall we get to the news of the day?
Yeah,
for Friday.
We'll get going here.
Yeah.
By the way, people, other than that, expect a short show. My eye is messed up. I think I scratched my cornea and it's bothering the shit out of me. So I don't want to be staring at screens and lights for too much longer. But yeah, we'll get jumping here. Why don't we start and then we'll take a break. We'll definitely be talking a lot about the immigration policy changes, some different stuff with Trump stuff. We'll be talking about RFK's nomination, some funny Tesla news that I find funny. I already said funny. I said funny twice. It's funny. And some health stuff that you all should be aware of. But let's start off with this Michigan priest who ended I don't know, would you call it a sermon, a speech that he was giving on Friday morning? Was that when that happened? Earlier, it was earlier in the month, and he ends the speech. You're being quite cheeky. I was just doing a cheeky joke where at the very end I do a Nazi salute like Elon, and said that his heart goes out to you.
And then did the Nazi salute.
Like identically. Yes. The aggressive version of the Nazi salute.
And he's there in his collar and everything.
Right, representing the Anglican Catholics.
Yes, and they have since defrocked him, which that term is delightful.
Oh, you've taken away my frock. What a weird thing to even that means he's not a priest now, right? What does it mean to be defrocked?
Yeah, I think it does mean. I think it means that he's
maybe just
essentially
on probation,
been fired, or no, I think it means that he. Let's see what that means. But what I found really funny is that, you know, he said he was just trying to be funny and all of that, but he did take the effort to say, also, in case it needs to be said, I'm not a Nazi, for the record, which is still more so far than Elon has given us after his double Nazi salute. So.
Interesting. Apparently you lose priest authority.
Yes,
I want to find out whether or not it can be restored, because there are priests.
Can he be refrocked?
Right. Can he be frocked again? Is there a way he can frock himself? If at night, is it okay for him to just consider himself frocked? Is he allowed to do some frocking in secret? Can he do some frocking out in the open? Can he frock with
others? That's, now that he's not a frocked priest.
I want to know whether or not it looks like it's probably not going to. Okay, if it was a disciplinary rather than a permanent decision, it may have been a suspension. So if he was just suspended, it could be returned, but otherwise,
defrocked. I think he's out.
No. But there are types of disciplinary defrocking. Apparently, that there's multiple types, and that one specifically could be temporary. I feel like if it's not temporary, like if you're that priest, you're like, oh no, I guess I get to go have sex now. Like, oh, my celibacy pledge is no, I don't have to hold to that any longer. Oh, man. And now I'm probably going to get a bunch of podcast deals and a Patreon or a bunch of people who are going to just make me rich because they're
I'm sure the Daily Wire will hire him tomorrow. Right. So that works out.
That one I don't. Has Ben Shapiro defended the Nazi salute. I feel like Ben's pretty anti-Nazi. He's a blatant Nazi, for the record. Like,
but it depends on what their take. I haven't heard what anybody on the Daily Wire said, because if they're in the camp of that was most certainly not at all a Nazi salute, and the left is being their crazy woke selves and making shit up. Like, if that's the route they're going with this, then he might be like, yeah, come on over. Who knows?
I mean, guess
I'm
so.
Obviously joking.
I definitely think Ben would be like, even as a joke, we should not be bringing back the Nazi salute. Now, when you take a look at what, no, I don't know if he said that. I'm saying, but I would expect him
but
to
it
say,
would
like,
be good if he did say that. That's
when
good.
you take a look at what Elon did, I believe it was an accident, because I know Elon, and Elon would not be. I'm trying to do like a good stare down in the eyebrows. Elon would not do that on purpose, and now he's doubling down. And do I think that it would just be better for him to say that that's what it looked like and it shouldn't have, and that's not what I meant? Sure, but the left, blah 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 blah. That's the kind of thing I would expect from him. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I also think he employs Nazis. There are people there who are Nazis in their heart, but Ben specifically, I wouldn't expect that, and he runs the place. Because Ben will sometimes have this moment of, I don't think it's goodness. I think he recognizes that this is a bad thing to optically attach to for the future. For example, it happened remember when Tim Walz'
Yeah, but I just looked it up. And unless I'm looking at a fake article, he has already defended it.
Oh, well, was it the way I just said he would probably defend it, of like, we shouldn't normalize it, but that one was an accident?
No, it's like the left is fucking stupid and they can't call Trump Hitler, so now they're moving on to call Elon Hitler. Like, he's just fully not.
I'd love to see him react. There was a guy who jokingly made a video of him reacting to the video. He's doing an impression of Ben Shapiro, and it's pretty funny. I want to see him actually watch the video and defend it live, because it's clearly what it looks like. And I would want to see now what he would think of people doing the salute like this priest, as like a joke, as an homage to okay, now let's just normalize bringing the symbol back as a meme. Because I do still think he wouldn't support memeing it and it becoming popular again. Because I think he takes the Holocaust seriously, because it affects his family and people.
I think his hatred of the left is stronger. And I think that
I don't think he would support the Nazi salute coming back. Again, not necessarily also for optics. Like when Tim Walz's son was crying and like, that's my dad, he was one of the people who was like, actually, this is quite sweet. Like, we should really not be going. This is the time to not do that. So yeah. I don't
so maybe
think
if
he would support
really question on it, sure.
Right. If he thinks that this is going to look poor in history, if I supported the optics of let's bring back the salute as a, whatever. Anyway, sometimes when I'm with my significant other at the end of the call, I will just be like, oh, and by the way, babe, and I'll hit my heart, but I won't then finish, and I'll be like, my heart goes to you, and then I'll put it out normally, just so you have that moment of tense of like, once you get, my heart goes out to you if you hit it.
Oh my God. I saw this meme video thing on Instagram Reels, and it's Elon doing that salute, and when he moves his hand away from his heart, he flings an actual heart out of his body, and it lands in this lady's hands, and it's got a Hitler stash, and it's just screaming at her, and she's just screaming. It's screaming some German words. I don't know what Hitler, the heart, was saying, but yeah, it was great.
It's interesting because with his defrocking, the church actually said they felt it was to curry favor with certain elements of the American political right and to provoke the opposition. So they're even saying they don't necessarily think he was being a Nazi, but being too political and trying to appeal to bad politics.
And credit where credit is due for them to come out and immediately say he's defrocked and we are staunchly against this. It's wrong. I think that's great.
Sorry, we didn't defrock all the people who touch kids, but we defrocked him.
Right.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I guess not too much credit.
Where credit is due.
Not too much credit, but a little tiny bit of credit.
Yeah. Yeah,
they do draw the line at Nazis, I guess.
Lifting a lot of weight there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk about all that other kind of stuff that I said we were going to talk about, but I can't necessarily remember right off the top of my head. But
it's all the phenomenal things the Trump admin is doing. It's going to be a good time. We may
also discuss whether or not Jimmy will ever get the timing of playing these break-in and break-out musics better. I would say don't hold your breath, but in the future, I may not be the one controlling the board as much, so could be better. It could be that one day I get somebody just to come in and do ghost producing for me, where I take credit for producing. They are a ghost producer, but it's me. It's always been me. Okay, I think the timer's finally running up.
See you after the break.
Would you like to be one of the cool people who can prove they were supporting this podcast right from the beginning? Well, you can. Head over to linemerch.com. That's linemerch.com and pick up some founders merch for The Line as a podcast that will only be available for a short time and features the rough draft drawn logo that soon will be updated to look less like it was drawn by a 3-year-old. That's linemerch.com.
Welcome back. I kind of wanted the logo again there. I still gotta. It's like, why we've already got music that's functional, and so when I could be talking to Promise and Yuka, I'd rather be playing VR games with them than fixing the music. But
Population 1 needs us.
We're back, and I think we were done with the priest. I didn't cut you off, did I?
I was done with the priest. If you are.
We've both been done with the priest many years.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some new immigration policy and enforcement that is going on, because Donald Trump is just a dick. He is planning a potential detainment facility for migrants who are being deported. 30,000 he wants to put in Guantanamo Bay. He wants to create a housing facility there, essentially, for 30,000 of them. And even Cuba's like, yo, I know we need to be doing some agreements and figuring out some diplomatic things here, but that shit is brutal as fuck. And consider the fact that we use Guantanamo Bay because there isn't a lot of regulation there. You can get away with a lot. So, of course, human rights groups are rightfully sounding the alarm that this sounds like the kind of thing you would do if you want to be able to hold them indefinitely, and if you wanted to not be held accountable for abusing them. Again, Guantanamo Bay, very famous for its its sandwiches and its torture programs. That would be what we have used them for in the past. Great sandwiches, subpar torture.
Oh wow. Isn't it Guantanamo and not Guantanamo?
What did I say? Guantanamo?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, now I'm doubting it. It's Guantanamo.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Guantanamo. And I said what? Guantanamo?
Yeah.
Guantamano's Pizza?
Yeah.
All you can eat, $9.99.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, no, it's wild. That again, I think so much of this too is just the shock factor of let's announce all the worst possible things we can think of all at once. But then they're actually doing so many of them, and he's literally opening up camps to put whoever he wants in is what will happen, basically, because I feel like he's already saying fuck the Constitution so many ways the last couple of weeks. So
and teaming up with other Constitution fuckers like his boy down here where I live, Governor Greg Abbott. He is just an awful, awful man. This is the guy who was putting razor wire in the water so that, if you tried to cross with your family, you get all cut up and drown. This guy's a fucking giant piece of shit. They've expanded now in Dallas, which is funky because Texas isn't what a lot of people think. And Dallas is a much more left-wing place. This is something that is being foisted upon those communities against their will, I assure you. They are increasing in Dallas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, up to 84, targeting 75 arrests per day, but have been hitting 84. And they are trying to do so very visibly. We've seen like Kristi Noem in New York putting on a bulletproof vest and the enforcement agency jacket, trying to look like she's there participating in. The funny thing being that if you actually look at the stats and the numbers, the total number of daily deportations hasn't gone up. Now, obviously it's going to, and I do take him at his word that he's going to be excessively horrible. But right now, all the things that they're doing with are photo ops, because they're actually at the same levels they were at during the Biden administration, but they want you to now see the images of it and celebrate that they're happening. Whereas obviously if you're a Democrat pretending to give a fuck about foreigners other than the way you can profit off of them. You don't want people to see that because then people are going to go, well, this is cruel as fuck. What the fuck's wrong with you? So they are trying to show you the pictures of them doing it, the videos of them doing it, so you think it's happening more, when in reality, it's just a propaganda machine.
Of course.
It's just a way to make you feel that way.
Do you know which U.S. president has deported the most amount of people?
Obama.
Yeah. Guess how many?
Certainly more than 9.
3 million.
Yeah.
And guess how many Trump deported during his term?
How many?
Less than George Bush, 1.8 million. So the propaganda is wild.
Now, was that 3 million per term, or would it have been possible that if he had
3 million over his, let's see what it says here. Highest number of So he has the highest number of deportations in a single fiscal year, which was 409,000 in 2012. But yes, this is over his entire administration.
So, I mean, if it is 8 versus 4, let's be,
Yeah, that makes sense.
In fairness, Trump would have won. Trump will be the deportation goat by the end of it all.
But he's still not, when he tells everybody, oh, the first week, 1 million gone.
It's going to be a massive, you're going to move very fast.
There's only so much he can do. And yet he's just saying all these things because he knows that it'll hype people up and they'll be so excited because they get to hate a bunch of people and talk about how they get to send all these people back. I think that's what makes me so angry. It's not that this isn't a real awful thing. And I don't think that I was still very Christian and therefore I did not like Obama for other reasons at the time. But I don't think it's right what was happening during that administration either. So that's not what I'm saying. I just hate that it's also being used as absolute propaganda that isn't based in facts.
And then they're taking like a few extreme cases and going, look, we deported them when Biden wouldn't. It's like, no, Biden definitely probably would have even happened the same day. The people that they are bringing to the top are the type of people that all of us would agree. Yeah, fucking deport the child molester, deport the rapist, deport the murderer. Fuck all those people. Maybe just drop them in the ocean on the way. I don't give a fuck about those guys. But making their stories the big one. Look, we got this guy, when it's the thing is I'm glad you got those guys. Now it's the other millions of people you're going after that you shouldn't be, that I'm worried about, but you're trying to make people believe that those millions of people that are a lot of mothers, that are a lot of kids, that are a lot of workers, that are a lot of honest people are those rapists, murderers. Rapers just really take the power out of it. I'm having a bad day. I'm tired and my eye hurts. It's hard for me to...
I mean, we had the press secretary saying, if you're in this country illegally, then you're a criminal. And comparing it to, because somebody was trying to question her basically like, are you saying this is the same as everybody else? She's like, well, you're a criminal. You're a criminal as far as the Trump administration is concerned. There is no like, hey, let's look at this and see what the priority is. There isn't a prioritization happening here. It's just, if you're in this country and we don't want you here, then you're as bad a criminal as anybody else. It's really disgusting.
If a person litters in America and they're on a green card, should we deport them because they're a criminal? Like, the fuck is wrong with you? Crimes have different levels of punishment, and being here to escape and try and work for a better life and basically paying taxes and receiving no benefits and doing jobs Americans don't want to do, those people should be protected. Ma'am, I'm sure you have sped possibly that day to get to work. You're a criminal. Let's deport you.
Right. It's because they're pandering to a group of people that don't actually care if you're a criminal or not. They care if you're brown. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yep. Well, and don't get me wrong. I think a lot of them do believe that every brown man, if they haven't raped, it's just a matter of time. Like, they do think that they're all, this is why the propaganda is trying to push them to associating violent crime, sexual crime, all of that with these faces that we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, because if they cared about criminals, they wouldn't have voted for Trump. So,
right. Yeah. We're going to deport convicted criminal. We deport Donald Trump. Let's start the movement.
I love it.
Also, in sort of related news, the Trump administration is also planning to cancel student visas for people who have vocalized support for Hamas, or sympathy for sympathy for
How
Hamas.
are they measuring that?
Exactly.
How the fuck are they going
Right.
to measure that?
Right. If you say, so if you're acknowledging a genocide in Gaza and the fact that a lot of people there will only have one option, which is two options. You can either lay down and die at the bullets coming at you, or you can hope for the victory of the people shooting bullets back. And by the way, those bullets coming at you have probably already killed your kids, have probably already killed people among you. There are definitely going to be lots of people where it's like, of course they're sympathetic to the people who are shooting back at the people who are killing them, even if those people are evil and have done evil things. But the funniest thing about it all is they supposedly were the freedom of speech candidates.
Right.
Are you also going to deport anybody from Poland who has any Nazi sympathies, who's casting their heart out to people? Are you going to be? No, it's clearly directed just at these people who are peacefully expressing their difference in opinion. And therefore, you think that people who are here in this country shouldn't be afforded the same freedom of speech, even as you say that this is why America is the best and try to present that that's why people would want to live here, is because you have freedom of speech.
And when you start making such arbitrary decisions like this, where you're saying, oh, if they're sympathetic to, when you can't define that properly, then you can just say, I don't want this person in this country. Oh, look, they liked this post one time from somebody that is sympathizing for this cause that we've said you can't sympathize for. So now you can't get a visa.
That's how it's going to work. They'll pick the person they want to get rid of first and then go, okay, let's figure out a way to say they're sympathetic to Hamas. Or some of the whatever other dumb lines they put up.
Yep. It's awful. Really awful. It's really scary, actually, when you really think about it.
Yep. More overreach, by the way, from the Trump administration. The Department of Justice, which is now serving at Trump's behest, you know, the way it's not supposed to do. It's supposed to serve the American people. He is basically now in command of it. Has fired basically anybody who was involved with the investigations and prosecutions of Donald Trump, even if they were there working, just doing their job. You aren't necessarily assigned by the ideologies you actually have. Investigations are often done by people who, look, it's just my job to do those investigations. So while no one is surprised that Special Counsel Jack Smith was fired, all federal workers who were a part of any of them designated as disloyal, which is a word you should not be firing people on the basis of in the first place in a democratic system, a supposedly non-autocratic system. Yeah, that is the basis upon which these people are being dismissed.
Right, because they know that whoever they have replaced them will kiss the ring and they'll just own everything.
Yep. It'll just be theirs forever.
Totally awesome, not fascist takeover at all.
Yep. And I mean, what we're describing when we're talking about they're finding different ways to fire people who are disloyal. Remember that the first term, people got solace from this idea of there's somebody in the room, adults in the room, to put limits on the crazy shit Trump is doing. It's basically they're getting more adults in the room who will not limit him.
Exactly.
Who will basically take him to the playground and go beat up whatever kids you want, take their candy, take their ice cream. We don't give a shit.
And that's my beef with so many people that have told me, you know, well, I understand I don't like Trump either, but we have to trust our checks and balances. We have to trust the system. It's not fucking working.
Right.
I mean, they've bought the whole thing out. They have SCOTUS. They're, as you said, firing anybody that's not perceived as loyal. Where are the checks and balances? We have a criminal as the president of the United States. Yeah.
Like who currently controls the Congress?
Or, trusting the Constitution. Who's going to hold them to that? Apparently nobody.
All three branches are currently held by the same party. So if you think checks and balances, when things have become so politicized to the point that now to maintain their jobs, you do not dare disagree with the head of the party. Like what checks and balances do you think he has right now? You're crazy if you think something's going to stop him.
Yep.
And speaking of crazy, perfect segue into RFK Jr. and his Senate confirmation hearings this week, where he has been pressed over and over again on his vaccine stance, his abortion stance, and the claims surrounding COVID-19. I don't know which one is the worst. Some of them are funny in a dark way where you're like, he now has this answer where he just goes, well, I agree with the president. I can't help but do the voice. I know it's probably mean, but that every abortion is a tragedy. Where it's one of those things where you're not actually saying you don't support abortion, but you are saying the phrase, I agree with the president.
He's signaling that he's kissed the ring now. That the things that some of the more sane or some of the less insane things that he's been saying the last few years, he's now retracted those and he's fully just doing whatever. Did you say the cock ring?
He's kissed the cock ring. It's not so far back. It's easy.
That's so gross.
It is gross. It was meant to be gross.
Did you watch that confirmation hearing?
Oh, yeah. And
it was so
back and forth
painful
with
to
him
watch.
and Bennett, back and forth with him and Elizabeth Warren, people who were doing a good job of pressing him and exposing him. And you're just sitting there and going like, but what Republican is going to vote no? Right. And did he not act kind of like surprised the whole time? Like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. Like, you're talking to me? This stuff? And they'd be like, did you say that the measles vaccine it doesn't work and it's horrible for you? I never said that. Yeah, okay, but here's where you said it. So you actually said that. Here's your book on it. You actually wrote a book about it. Well, but I'm pro-vaccine. My children are vaccinated. Yeah, okay, but here's the time where you literally said, and here's the time you said you would do anything to go back in time and unvaccinate them. God. So,
did you see his cousin Caroline Kennedy came out with a statement? I mean, a video against him.
Yes. Yeah. Very I thought scathing that was about what a grifter he is.
Yeah, which honestly, I'm battling the frustration that why didn't she do that? I mean, she explained why she didn't do that earlier, but it's like
a lot of the family did though.
I know, but I think it meant a little more coming from her, and it was really scathing. And and she made some incredible points and exposed some things, and I think she probably has the most credibility out of all of them. I think.
Good. I don't know. I don't follow the Kennedys that much.
Yeah, I'm just frustrated that because it's like, well, cool. Now you're at least I understand. Now you're making yourself look like, yeah, I'm not associated with this crazy person, but like maybe you should have told us that a couple years ago.
17,000 doctors have put their name to paper to say they oppose the nomination of RFK Jr. That should matter, people. That's a lot of doctors. And that's just the ones who like got the petition. Like, let's be real. If you actually polled all doctors, most of them you'd have an above 80%, maybe even 90%.
Although I also don't blame any doctors at this point that would be too afraid to sign that, because it seems now you're putting yourself in a line of fire if you do anything in opposition to this administration. And so I'm sure people are scared for their jobs.
I don't know that Trump actually cares about RFK Jr. except for that, like RFK Jr. gave him the endorsement, which he wanted that. And now that it's done, I think that especially all the like, he's going to keep bringing up those McDonald's cheeseburgers are not good for you, sir. Like, I think he doesn't. But
did you hear him say, people should have their burgers and their fries. My friend, the president, loves his cheeseburger and Coke, and I want them to be able to have that.
You should have the option, essentially.
Right, yeah.
But he wants there to be more education.
But that's not, I don't think Trump loves RFK Jr. I think that Trump doesn't want to be undermined in any sense until he's decided he's done with somebody. Then you need to get in line and be fully loyal. So that's why I think people would be worried. Also, side note, in case anybody's watching and not just listening, I am aware of this Pixel. We're working on it. And right now it's just my buddy. But now I literally keep feeling like I have to scoot over and make space for it because Pixel, it's like part of
if you never drew attention to it, almost nobody would have noticed. It's that
except
you drew attention
for
to it.
I've started getting comments about it.
Yeah, I bet after you said something, right?
No. I've never said anything about it till now. I said that's why I texted you the other day. I was like, hey, is there a Pixel?
The first person will say something, you'll have like people responding about it, but that's pretty.
Yeah. Well, now everyone's going to notice, and I'm sorry, everybody. But that's my little friend.
Over the years, I've mentioned things that bothered me, and then people act like this is the worst thing ever. Yeah, and then make up lies. Your video gave me a seizure because the camera was panning. You fucking liar! Shut the fuck up.
I just wanted to acknowledge the Pixel in the room. So
the Pixel in the room. We'll move on to economic shit because at least there's some funny things to report on. Tesla, despite the fact that it is exploding in value and continuing to go up for no real reason. This is a company that makes way more, is valued way higher than what it actually produces. But now is finally starting to see things, we'll say maybe correct, as the revenue in the 2024 Q4 reports actually went down, even though his popularity was going up with a certain party that for some reason just does not want to buy electric vehicles. Crazy, man. Weird. And that they actually had their first ever decline in annual deliveries. They delivered fewer in 2024 than 2023. Yeah, that's all good. They've also announced that they're planning to have more affordable electric vehicles and the self-driving taxis roll out in Texas, again, where I am, by June. But if it is a timeline set by Elon Musk, you can be rest assured that June timeline means something more like 2030 at the earliest. I had a Tesla back in the day, and it was right around the corner. By this winter, you're going to have full self-driving. And literally, I was hearing that like 5-6 years ago. And it still hasn't hit the regular cars. They're still in a beta program.
Right.
And you still have to hold the wheel if you are behind that car. So a taxi that drives you where you are not, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Those scare me anyways. I would not.
I liked the self-driving, especially on the highway, but also
not like that.
Trump's taking away electric vehicle incentives in the first place. So, but Musk right now is not trading on people actually buying the stuff. Again, it's the sentiment around it. It's making people believe, and now trying to buy political influence is going to be a part of it as well. But as all of this is happening, pretty funny that Poland has been calling for a Tesla boycott after the Nazi signal, and then Musk subsequently going to Germany to tell the right-wing party, we've got to stop having all of this guilt around being a Nazi. And I can't do a good impression of him. I'll work on it one day. All the guilt about being around, basically telling the people who are there already having no Nazi guilt, even though maybe they should, that people should stop talking about the Nazis.
Yes, I'm sure that has nothing to do whatsoever with
urging for a consumer boycott. Yeah, it's pretty funny. That one's enjoyable to me, and I'm excited for whatever. I don't see Elon Musk surviving unscathed the next 4 years with him and Trump like staying buddies and stuff, surviving maybe like literally. I'm not saying I expect him to die. I just expect some giant crash and
fallout.
Burn. Yeah.
Except I thought that this would be over weeks ago.
Sure.
I mean, I'm shocked that we're here now. So now I don't know. They could be.
There's got to be handlers moving
now
between the two and keeping Elon into small doses. But, there's already been tension between them. And as soon as it becomes more significant, like how Musk doesn't like what Trump is planning to do to support Sam Altman and ChatGPT, that's going to be an issue. We're going to take one more quick break. Do you have any thoughts on that before we do?
I'm all good.
All right, we're going to take another break here, and when we get back, talk about a couple of other things. But I will tell you all, we may have to cancel the bonus show because I am feeling my health unpleasantly decline. So there may be no bonus show today. Well, we'll try. We'll do a little one. We'll do a short bonus show. I still want the patrons deserve something. So we might end the regular show even sooner to accommodate the patreon.com/calltheline bonus show. Maybe that's the way we go. I'm starting to get like the sniffles. My nose is getting congested. I think just because everything in this area is irritated. So that's fun. Anyway, we'll be right back. More.
This episode is brought to you by the amazing people on patreon.com/calltheline, where you can get the show ad-free and you get the extended episodes where we do bonus shows, which is most of the time. Head over to patreon.com/calltheline and sign up today.
Would you like to be one of the cool people who can
Oh, what was the point of that borping sound? No one knows. All right, as we come back in and we talk about all the different things going on, we should also note that there are boycotts potentially coming from Canada now over the tariff threats, which again will screw us more than it screws them. And having these trade wars does not benefit anybody. It does a lot of damage, but may eventually help the rich people be richer, because that is essentially the goal of the Trump administration. Boy, if you were rich now, wait till you see the end. But if you are poor, we're going to figure out how to take some of the money we're giving to the poor and give it to the rich. That's Trumpism.
So that's depressing. So depressing.
Tariffs are dumb. That's just a quick one. We are going to speed through these and probably
I also think so much of it is he loves using it as propaganda, as international propaganda, to kind of show everybody, look how I am, and I'm going to, it's just.
But it's dumb too, because you're just pushing them to China. China has a huge economy. A lot of people, they can replace America. And Colombia was one of the ones they're doing that with. And they're like, all right, well, right now, since you're threatening with us with tariffs, in the short term, sure, we'll capitulate to your demands, but we're going to start cozying up to China and get it. China can sell us the stuff that you're trying to tariff, and we'll sell them the stuff you're trying to tariff. We'll cut you out to avoid these tariffs. It's not, he's acting like they only have America to sell to. And in reality, you are going to bolster the economic power of places like China and Russia. Like,
for sure,
especially as you are here, giving them a way out of all of their sanctions and basically trying to give them a victory in the war, giving them everything they stole already from Ukraine. That's his plan.
That war that's still happening, that was supposed to be ended,
within 24 hours of him
24
winning.
Hours. Right.
Of him winning, not even becoming president, 24 hours of winning. And yet here we are, and it's not coming. In fact, I believe I saw Putin today saying Putin also refuses to sit down and try and make a deal directly with Zelensky at all. If Zelensky's in the room, he won't be. So it's awesome. And as we are now here and we face the next 4 years, we have to think about what went bad in the first 4 years and how protected we are from it. So I'm not excited to report to you that we are now starting to see a breakout of bird flu, and a pretty hefty bird flu spreading across Massachusetts. And it is moving certainly across the birds themselves. And I believe in some states has already made the jumps to humans. But right now they're worried about this big avian flu outbreak in Massachusetts making that jump to humans. So there is a lot happening regarding poultry farms and stuff.
Well, tuberculosis outbreak. That's, I mean, what year is it?
Yep. We've got a big tuberculosis outbreak in Kansas City. And right now they are trying to implement contact tracing and testing for it. They're saying right now, probably a low chance of a broader public problem. And, granted, tuberculosis is something we've beaten before, so that could be true. But I just also remember when the Trump administration was saying, when Trump himself was saying, we're seeing this thing coming out of China and it's moving across, but we've got it contained. It's not going to be a problem here. And then I'm trying to remember, did we shut down the whole economy and the whole country for that? That was something that I feel like I remember happening. Something like that. And then the last story today is so dumb. And there's more developing. But
dumb and sad.
Yeah, very, very sad. 2 nights ago over the Potomac River, a jet collided with a military Black Hawk and nobody died. Nobody survived. Everybody died. And it plunged into the river. So even if there had been survivors, the super cold waters would have taken the survivors anyway. And we have not actually seen a deadlier air crash since 9/11. And we are still investigating why it happened. Yeah. And Donald Trump immediately, as quickly as he can, does a press conference. And what does he blame? DEI.
Insane.
And blames that the FAA had an initiative to bring in more handicapped people. Not as he kept saying, there can't be air traffic controllers. It says in this, psychologically impaired people working as traffic controllers. It doesn't say that. The FAA, however, did do outreach programs. And it's funny when he's reading the list of people they were doing outreach to, he just read the whole list. So at some point he's like, it has to be the smartest people, but instead here they're trying to bring in people who are paraplegic, and you're like, paraplegic people could be air traffic controllers? What are you talking about? People with amputations. Okay, yeah, that
All right.
is their brain amputated, and then he finds like psychological disorders. Okay, all right. I guess there you could say like, okay, that maybe specifically air traffic controllers, and then he just like ends his list with, and dwarfism. Guy, I think dwarfs can probably be air traffic control. I don't know. I don't know what the limitations of their people are, but air traffic control doesn't seem like it would be one of them. Well, what if the chairs is too high? Are we going to buy them special chairs? Are you crazy? I don't know why would you include the rest of the list? Just say included on the list are people with these specific impairments. And instead, it just sounds like you hate dwarfs, man. Like,
I'm sure he does. He has his list is generally including a lot of disabled people. So
I don't know. I've seen Wolf of Wall Street, and generally they tend to treat dwarfs as entertainment because those are real stories that these millionaires and billionaires.
I think the correct term is little people. Is that right? Somebody educate me in the comments,
I know that
please.
that is used. I know it's called dwarfism, and I know the little person that I know definitely wants to be called a dwarf. But I also know, who knows? I don't know if he was saying that as like you get a pass. I know what not to call them.
Sure.
Specifically, there's one word you shouldn't call them. I am pretty sure dwarves is on the table.
It's just how fucking unpresidential can you get when this tragedy happens and you are seemingly almost excited to be able to say it's DEI. You don't even pause to find out what lives have been lost yet. He didn't have answers for any of that yet. No evidence, like, okay, tell us why. If it is DEI, tell us why. Nothing. Zero. No evidence whatsoever. Just, cool, something I can use to further my agenda of spreading hatred. And just reveals his complete lack of understanding of what DEI even is or what it does. Also, did you see in his press conference, he takes an obnoxious amount of time saying things like, well, the helicopter went up and then it went down and it could have gone this way, but then it went that way and it could have gone over here and it went under. And I was like, is this like a children's book where you're like, go under the rock, go over the rock, go to the side of the rock? Like,
it reminded me of when he thought he knew how to like be a firefighter. You know, if you would just go rake those forests, they wouldn't go up. It looks like perhaps I should have used this phrase, people with dwarfism. Now,
okay, that makes sense.
The one friend I have is probably the only person with dwarfism that will actually be listening to this podcast, potentially. So I don't know, but they'll let me know. I'm sure. But, luckily this happened at the end of the episode, so no one heard it anyway.
We're trying.
I'm just kidding. I'm sure some of you make it to the end. Some of you. Losers do. No, I'm kidding. I love you. The people who are here till the end are my favorite people.
Those are my favorite people.
You're the best ones. You're increasing those time. I can't believe Promise said that. Well, that's going to be it for the episode. Wow. Promise, do you have any parting thoughts of hope that you want to share with people before we head to the bonus show and play a little bad people?
Oh my God. I have no hope to offer at all other than, again, we're in this together. We'll be back here Monday morning and we'll see what kind of shit show happens over the weekend.
The person I love just messaged me that they miss me. That's the nice thing I have.
That's your little hope thing. That's so sweet.
It's a nice reminder that somebody gives a fuck. Come to the bonus show. We're playing bad people, and Promise is going to finally tell the Cadis story. Oh, we might, if we have time, we got to end it early.
Your eye seems like it's not okay.